Marianne Saliba, newly elected Mayor of Shellharbour, welcome. Good to have you here. Thank you for coming in. 12 months on, Labor again in the driver's seat. Well, do you think that's the way many would see it?
Well, it's not Labor again in the driver's seat. It's me as an individual that's in the driver's seat. Labor doesn't have control of council. We are 3 Labor councillors. There's 2 Liberal councillors and 2 independent councillors. So I wouldn't say that it's Labor in the driver's seat as such. I would say that I got the position based on my merits.
Right. Do you think there's added pressure on Labor now, given what's happened in the past, to perform well?
Look, I think there's added pressure on all councillors to perform well. We have an obligation to the community. We have a responsibility to look after our community assets and ensure that our community members are well provided for. So the responsibility is on every one of us as a councillor. I just, as a leader, must ensure that I'm a good role model for the other councillors and also to make sure that we're all rowing in the same direction.
Back in politics now, got the urge to go further to state politics at this stage?
No. Can I say that even during my time, 8 years as a state MP, I always enjoyed more what I did in the electorate than I did in the Parliament House, even though making laws was the primary role. I got far greater enjoyment and pleasure out of assisting people locally. And to the general population, all politics are local. People don't recognise or don't necessarily recognise the difference between a federal issue, a state issue or a local issue. And I think that I'm very comfortable being a part of Shellharbour Council and intend to remain there for as long as the residents of Shellharbour keep me there.
And newly elected Mayor, the fact that Kelly Marsh had such a strong vote against her, and some would say even an ambush, did that surprise you?
Nothing surprises me in politics and nothing surprises me in Shellharbour Council. We are 7 individuals with diverse backgrounds, and I think that Kelly was a new councillor. She went straight into the mayoral position without having any experience. I think she did a great job of leading us to that point, but there was, I guess, some frustration with other councillors feeling that they weren't being, their views weren't being considered, that statements were being made where there hadn't been proper consultation with other councillors. So I think if you're going to be a leader, you've got to make sure that the rest of the people are behind you, because otherwise you're just an individual.
Do you think this has changed the working relationship on council?
No, I don't think so. I think that our working relationship will continue to be a productive one. I don't know whether everybody that you work with, Rob, that you have a great relationship with, but as a human being, you need to have respect for all people, and if you treat your fellow councillors with respect, you'll get the same back.
Would you like to see the vote for Mayor made a popular vote instead of just by council?
I would. When I first was when I was first elected onto council, I was a very strong advocate to ensure that it was a popularly elected mayor. I believe that the state government deliberately changed our form of voting, both to the proportional representation and also an internally elected mayor to maximise the Liberal vote. I was very disappointed with that because I think that it takes away that opportunity from the residents to actually decide who's going to be their mayor. Having said that, there was a mayor on the South Coast gave me a bit of advice early in the piece, and he said, the community don't always know the person that they're electing, and you could have that person for 4 years and they could be a dud, whereas if you're in a council and the mayor's a dud, the council will not allow that to continue. So I guess in our case, the 7 people that work together know best who is best to represent them, but I certainly have a view that the Shellharbour City electorate should have the opportunity to select who they wish to be their mayor.
Do you think the electorate itself would like that opportunity?
Oh, absolutely. I believe that they would.
Now that you're in the mayoral seat, anything you'd like to see changed in the way things are processed?
Look, particularly I want to make sure that my fellow councillors are kept involved in all that's going on. Given that I'm only one vote, I need to ensure that the other 6 either share the same views as me, or that we have, I guess, good discussion to ensure that our outcomes are positive and that they are productive for the community. So that's my main target, is to make sure that we all work together, and have that consultation that needs to take place. As far as Shellharbour City is concerned itself, I'm very keen to see the growth continue. I see us in the future being the regional city of this area. I think that Shellharbour City's got a lot of growth. We've got a young population. We've got becoming the shopping mecca with the $350 million investment by Stocklands in the redevelopment, and also our Marina project.
So the friendly rivalry between Shellharbour and Wollongong will continue.
It will continue.
There's a push at state level for councils to amalgamate. And Brian Weir, as you're probably aware, when he left as GM, he said he'd like to see Kiama and Shellharbour amalgamate. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't believe that there should be any forced amalgamations. Should Kiama and Shellharbour wish to discuss that, I think that's a matter then that needs to be discussed with the residents. I'm very much against amalgamations. I believe that we're very diverse. All of our council areas down here are diverse. We've got several council areas in the southern group of councils, and I would hate to see our councils forced together.
All right, let's go to...
Can I just say, but on the amalgamations, it's very important, but that we do share our resources, and currently we do that with many councils. I think that that's important because it helps to keep our costs down for the ratepayers.
Yeah, it's just forced amalgamation, definitely.
No.
Councillor Helen Stewart, your personal thoughts. She receives about receiving some sort of reimbursement from council. What do you think? Should she have?
Look, that was one of the most difficult positions I've ever been in my life, was to make a decision against somebody that I work with and somebody that I have a lot of respect for. Unfortunately, it was a decision that was made in a court of law, and that's the only place that decision can be changed. With no cost awarded meant exactly that. If the court wished for Shellharbour Council to make payment, they would have that would have been the award, would have been that Shellharbour Council make those payments. It's unfortunate, and I do feel very much for Councillor Stewart, but under the circumstances and with all the information that we had before us, we had no alternative but to support the original decision. We're not a court of law, and we really don't have a right to be, I guess, rejudging a case that's already been heard.
Do you think it sends a message, though, to others not to take on council?
Look, it sends lots of messages to others. First of all, had I been on council during that time, I don't know whether I would have even made the decision that was made, and I don't know whether even those who were there would have made that decision in hindsight. However, there was a lot of Shellharbour Council was under attack from a small group of anti-Labor people, which was very sad because they set up a website which printed some very, very harmful information, and a lot of it was just out and out lies. And I think that this was part of what was going on during the time that confidential information was being leaked from council and actually placed on that website. So, understanding Councillor Stewart's situation, I do think that councillors have an obligation to ensure that confidentiality is just that, and that those papers that we receive should be treated as such.
All right, now tonight's meeting, City Hub is coming up. There's talk about its affordability now becoming an issue. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, the affordability of the City Hub is not becoming an issue. We've had very, very thorough briefings on the City Hub. We set up a project control group, which I'm a part of. we established a community reference group. We've had consultation with the community over a significant period of time. And the City Hub is about providing a heart for our city. You know, at the moment where we are at Lamberton House for the administration and council chambers, if you were someone with a disability, an elderly person, or a family with a pram, and didn't have a transport and came on public transport, you'd get off at the front of Stocklands, you'd walk through Stocklands, up a huge flight of stairs to get into the council chambers. That's really not an accessible arrangement for people. With us moving to a new site, we would have our council administration, council chambers, an auditorium, meeting rooms for many community groups. There would also be our city library and the museum there. So it would actually be a place that would belong to the community and where the community could gather.
The $55 million price tag affordable?
We've got a number of assets that we're considering at the moment selling off, and they are surplus. So we've asked the council officers to, you know, give us all of that detail, which we now have. We've got conservative estimates on what the sale of those properties are, and at the end of the day, we're looking, I believe, at 16 million or something thereabouts in order to build this city hub. Like any person that's buying a family home, you need to consider your income as opposed to your outgoings, and we just need to make sure that we can actually service the loan.
You think ratepayers will understand that so much money being spent on the one building?
Look, I think that's a conversation that we're going to continue to have with ratepayers before we actually get to that point. I think it's very important that we do talk to them about it. But we're not just talking about a building, we're talking about an opportunity for our city to have a place that we call home, that we have. I mean, I've been up and had a look at some of the other city areas that have done just this particular project, and it has been an absolute treasure for their cities. The community rooms are used on a regular basis. Their city libraries have actually grown, their branch libraries, more people are using those facilities. And we have a museum out in Albion Park that's been there now for many years that I can remember, run by volunteers, and I think it's time that we give them a proper home.
Another issue is the Marina. It's been there for a long while. Another issue the community's got very mixed reactions about. What stage are we on the Marina?
Well, I'm a grandchild of the Marina when you think about it. My mother was in council when the Marina was first mooted, and that project has been going now for 28 years, I think it is. I know I won't be able to afford a boat that will be kept in the Marina. However, it will bring people with money to our area. It will provide job opportunities through tourism, outlets, motels, businesses that are required to assist with the upkeep of boats and yachts. I think that we certainly hope to be seeing the first of the sod turning early next year.
So we've got to push ahead, we've got to complete it.
Absolutely. Well, council has made a commitment. This council has made a commitment that we will continue to work ahead. One of the things I know that gets raised often is, you know, that we may need to borrow money. Well, actually what happens is that the Shell Cove Enterprise, which is the organisation that's made up of council and Australand, from all the land sales, that money gets invested, and that money will be used during the time of building the Marina. There will be about an 18-month period where we will be spending more than we'll be making, but that's because the land sales will stop while the Marina is built, and then the land sales will then be built all around that will then go again all around the Marina. So by the time it's finished, I anticipate that Shellharbour City Council will end up with about $30 million that we will be able to invest in infrastructure and provide the appropriate services for our community.
And Shellharbour will have the much touted jewel in the crown.
And we will have a place that people will want to come to, that we will be a city that will be very well known for who we are. I mean, I know I've lived in Shellharbour most of my life, but when I go places and people say, where are you from? You say Shellharbour and they say, where's that? Well, it's between Wollongong and Kiama. Now they know Wollongong because it's a regional city, and they know Kiama because seaside resort with the blowhole. Well, Shellharbour will have its own unique assets that will make us a city in our own right.
Another part of that development was the Links golf course. It was always intended that it should have a tenant. It's managed and operated now by council. It's been that way for a while. Any changes there?
Look, unfortunately, what happened with the Links, it's history and we can't undo the decisions that were made. And it was unfortunate that when it did have a tenant, it wasn't working well. We currently have that, it's improving all the time. We have a manager in there. We are looking for a company that would like to come down. We have gone through a soft tender process and we will soon be going into the hard tender. We want to make sure that those that are putting their hand up are actually going to be able to manage it. Personally, I'd like to see accommodation and all sorts of things happen down there to make it a resort that people would want to come to, and that's our aim. But it's not Shellharbour City Council's core business, and we have run a golf course for some time in order to, I guess, maintain the asset that we have provided, and we hope that soon we'll be able to hand that on to somebody on a long-term basis.
Many other questions, but just this last one, any further moves on Calderwood?
Look, Calderwood's a rather unusual thing because, I opposed it. I opposed Calderwood being developed at this stage because I was involved in the Illawarra strategic planning process, and Calderwood was a little blimp on the map. It wasn't even seriously considered. It was like if everywhere else was developed, then it'd be Calderwood. It came out of the blue from my perspective for it to be developed. I don't know, I understand that Delph and Lendlease are pursuing this legally and they have every right to. I'm happy to sit down with them because at the end of the day, anything that does get built, I want to ensure that it's we still get the best outcomes for Shellharbour. I think it's early. I think we've got a lot of infrastructure and services that Shellharbour City Council haven't, I guess, banked on as being able to provide those services at this stage. So I'd be looking at state government and the developer to ensure that those things are covered.
Okay, and nothing's come across your desk at this stage?
No, nothing has come across my desk at this stage, and this is something that I'll be working with my fellow councillors to, should it get to a point where we're going to have to accept it, then we're going to have to make sure that we get the best outcomes.
Well, Marianne Saliba, thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much, Rob.